The recent Update 48 live stream for the Elder Scrolls Online with the developers was pretty disappointing, and a lot of people in the community were kind of left wondering what's going on. We usually expect a lot of different things with updates in ESO, and we do know as time goes on throughout the year, usually the end of the year updates are not as big as the beginning of the year updates. And in the past, we've also had those times where they're just doing like back end improvements, just small stuff. They're not bringing stuff into the game; they're just making improvements to the game. Quality of life changes, stuff like that. Bug fixes, whatever. This year, we kind of got told about, of course, the other part of Solstice opening up. Kind of got to look at that. It looks like a lot like Cold Harbor, kind of what I expected. But when asked, of course, in the chat, a lot of people were talking about what quality of life changes are coming with Update 48. The answer was there's no more quality of life changes in Update 48. All of the stuff they're focusing on quality of life wise will not be out until next year. They're trying to work on that for next year. I talked about this in a video about a week ago where they were talking about doing a lot of stuff, a lot of improvements. Rich Lambert said they couldn't really mention it because it was stuff that's going to be out next year. And when that was said, of course, in that live stream, a lot of people were kind of disappointed because they feel like ESO needs some changes. And if they're really focusing on community as they say they are and listening to the community, this was not the way, in my opinion, and I don't really want this to sound negative, but it probably is. This video is probably going to be more negative than usual. But it's just not really what you want to hear is we're not working on anything else improvement-wise for quality of life stuff until next year. And with the state of course, subclassing, some people love it, some people hate it. It still needs to be balanced no matter if you like it or not. I mean, it's just kind of is what it is. Not really addressing that, not really addressing pure class changes. Not really addressing anything that anybody has been asking for the last several years, last several months. In their recent AMA they did. It's just kind of strange to me. And I don't know if it's something to do with the team size now. I know that the team has been knocked down a good bit considering all the layoffs, and that's really bad on Microsoft's part. I've talked about this a lot in the past, to where these companies are really hurting games because they're getting rid of so many good, talented people working for them. But at the same time, you can't expect a small development team to do something that a massive development team can do. It's just not possible. So I'm not sure what the issue is here. It's just very strange that the answer we got was there was no more really quality of life improvements besides the few things they went over in the live stream, and it was nothing game-changing by any means. We usually get one or two really large quality of life improvements, game-changing kind of things, whether it's for the good or the bad. And sometimes it doesn't work out. But we usually get one or two of those every single update. And not really having any massive changes pretty much whatsoever in Update 48 tells you a lot when they say that. So when we see these patch notes, it's probably not going to be your usual patch notes when the public test server goes live. You're not going to see tons of changes to different abilities, tons of changes to classes, tons of changes to gear, tons of changes to just the normal stuff we usually see. And a lot of times, of course, like I said, it's nerfed, so it's not always good. But the community usually is expecting that kind of stuff. To really not see a whole lot of anything is going to be kind of strange, especially when they're saying it's not going to be, or the stuff we're wanting or not, is not going to be done until next year. And we all know, of course, we're not getting some massive update in January or February of next year. It'll probably be spring before we start seeing a lot of these updates and things that the community is asking for go into effect, and we still have no idea what those are. We have no idea exactly what they're working on because we do still get that normal ZOS answer where it's, we're working on some stuff y'all have been talking about, stuff we've been hearing in the community, but we can't talk about that because it's later down the road. So we really don't get a specific answer, and that's where I've kind of had an issue with what they're doing. I like that they're wanting to discuss things more with the community, talk to the community more, get out there and do things like the AMA and get out there and get on Reddit and social media and just talk to the community in general. I think that is great. I think all developers should do that. And I understand it's still really hard to do because you do have people that are just going to be hating on everything you do all the time, and that does make it frustrating. So I get the point of not wanting to do that a lot. But at the same time, if they would just give us a little bit of info about what they're working on. If they came out and said, look, we can't get it all done right now, but we're working on some massive changes for subclassing, for pure classes, and it won't be out until next spring. I think a lot of people wouldn't be happy, but at the same time, they would at least be happy with the response. They would at least know that they're working on that particular thing that the community has been asking for. But when you say we're working on stuff that the community has been discussing, some feedback we've been getting, but we can't talk about that. We're not going to have any of these improvements until next year. It kind of leaves you wondering, what are these improvements that they're working on? What if it's not something that the mass majority of the community has asked for? What if it's something that the mass majority of the community or all the community doesn't feel like that it was a priority compared to the other stuff that has been mentioned? And I know developing a game is not the easiest thing to do. I understand that. But it's just a very strange response. I thought this was a very odd developer live stream. Usually the developer live streams leading up to a new update, they're hyping up a lot of the new stuff, hyping up, a new area, a new zone, a new ability, a new class, some changes to this or changes to that. And this was a lot more mellow than normal. And it just was kind of an odd one to me. It was a very strange kind of answers, very strange, just kind of stream in general. I don't know what it was, but for me personally, something wasn't right. Something was off compared to what we normally see. So I'm going to be really curious to see what the community or how they kind of react to this. Of course, we did get a bit of info in that, talking about some more Vengeance campaign testing, what they're wanting to do for PvP. I think it was, of course, the one that's coming up pretty soon. Again, sometime in December. Again, sometime at the first of next year. But, of course, the PvP community has kind of already made it pretty, obvious that they don't know if this is ever going to work. And if it does, how long is it going to take to get these changes into base PvP? We're just testing them and testing them and testing them, but we're not really seeing any changes when it comes to PvP. And that's what you hear from the PvP community. And then when it comes from the PvE community, you hear a lot of these changes that they want, and they're not really getting mentioned like a particular thing. Like I said, these changes they could make next year could be great. It could be stuff that a lot of people have been asking for. And at the same time, I kind of worry that it could be things that I don't think the community would see as important as maybe what they're putting out. So it could be something that we don't all want right away. It's not a priority for changes. I don't know what's going to happen. It's going to be interesting to see how the next several months of ESO play out towards the end of the year. We have, of course, some events. You have the New Life Festival, at the end of the year. We have the Halloween Festival, of course, the Witches Festival coming up. There's a lot of events and things still going on. We have the Writhing Wall event, which I still think a lot of people will play. They may drop off playing for a while and then come back to do that. But it's going to be an interesting overall next couple months, just because a lot of people are going to be curious about what's going to happen going forward with ESO. We keep hearing about how they want to make this a game for the next 30 years. But having a bit of information of what you're working on, I think that would make the community a lot happier, even if they're not getting it right now. And just saying we're not doing a whole lot more for Update 48 than what you're seeing in this live stream, and we're not really doing any more quality of life changes. All of that stuff's being worked on for the previous year. I think it's going to leave kind of a bad taste in a lot of the community's mouth, just because of the fact of you're going to be playing for another, who knows, 3 months, 6 months before you're really getting anything relevant added to the game. And I know it takes time, but at the same time, it's not like ESO just came out in the last year or so. It has been out for 10 years now, 11 years on PC even. And it's kind of getting to be a frustrating thing for a lot of the longtime fans and even some of the newer fans. I know people that just come into the game recently may not see all of the issues or problems that a lot of the longer, the long-time players, people that have been playing for 5+ years, have experienced. But I even see newer players starting to see some of the stuff in game that needs to be changed. And that's kind of bad when players that are brand new are even noticing the stuff that players that have been playing forever have been talking about. So that shows you there are some core problems there that do need to be addressed. I'm just not sure how soon they're going to get addressed. And that is the biggest problem, I think, for ESO right now. If you want to have a game that's going to last for the next 10 years, much less the next 30 years, the communication is going to have to change even more. Even though you're talking about communication, you're still not communicating the way I think many would like to hear. You're still going to have to at least give them something. You're going to have to let them know something. And a lot of games do that. I'm sure most of you have played a lot of other titles where developers will kind of hint at things to keep people excited, or at least to keep people coming back, for updates to see what's new. But when you say they're not really adding a lot of new stuff in Update 48, there's not going to be any quality of life changes that have really been discussed in the community until next year, that's going to make a lot of people step away from the game. And it's not necessarily a bad thing, because, even myself, I play sometimes I don't. I go on and play other things. I come back to play ESO. I've always done that. And I've heard a lot of people say that here in the comments on the channel, where they might leave the game for a while, but they always come back. But overall, if you start losing a large amount of the newer players, the players that have been here for less than 5 years, and you've already lost a lot of the players that were longtime fans of the game, and they're not coming back, we may have a problem down the road. We'll have to wait and see what these updates bring. And sadly, you're just going to lose some players and they're never going to come back no matter what changes, because it took so long for these things to change. So leave me a comment. I know I've kind of gone on a little bit longer than normal, but leave me a comment and let me know what you think about this. This was something that I thought was, like I said, very odd when I watched this live stream. It just felt off compared to what we normally see. And a lot of the community is not really happy with the answers we got. Other content creators, I've already heard them talking about the same kind of thing that I'm mentioning here. It's just strange to see no big changes when it comes to updates for a game that is large as ESO, a game that has the population that ESO has, a game just in sheer size of ESO, all the stuff that you can do, and not having a lot of quality of life stuff, and all the changes the community wants, and you're talking about doing this stuff next year, kind of has upset a lot of people. And I don't really know what's going to happen with the ESO going forward community-wise. I'm not sure if we'll see the same players around 6 months from now than we have now, and that's kind of sad. And it's kind of upsetting, I guess, for a lot of players too, when they lose, guild members and stuff like that they have played with for a long time, and people just stop playing the game and go on to something else. It's just part of gaming, unfortunately. But at the same time, with answers like this, I feel like the community feels like ZOS sometimes just is not listening. They're just doing whatever they want, and people have said that for a long time, and I was hoping that was going to change, but unfortunately, so far, it does not look like it has. Leave me a comment with your thoughts, and if you like the video, hit the like. If you have not subscribed yet, please do so, and I'll catch you next time. Peace.